Fonda, I'm sure you remember.
Donald
Sutherland. And he came into my office. He was a stage actor. He sat down and I said, so, hey, Roy, Bob Weiner brought him to me. I said, what are you doing? He said, well, I'm in this play downtown off Broadway. I said, what is it? He said, it's a Jean Genet play. I said, what do you play in it? He said, I play a cigar-smoking nun. I said, really? Yeah. I said, okay, you're hired. Seriously, that was the conversation. That's it. He walked into the room, you look at this guy, and then I knew the guy he was playing, Sonny Grasso, who was one of the French Connection cops. And the way this man looked, the way he carried himself, who he was, I cast him. I had never seen his work. And that's true of most of the people that I've cast.
So talk to me then about finding Neil Hurston and Thomas Hayden Church guys you got this movie.
Well, I had seen both of their work. I mean, Hirsch in Into the Wild, and Thomas Hayden Church in Sideways. He's funny. He also is a Texan, so he has the right accent, and he understands that part of the country where the film is set. You know, so I looked for him. I looked for the two of them. Okay. They didn't, you know, walk in off the street. They're very established, wonderful actors. But I don't know, have any of you heard the story of how I cast Linda Blair?
No.
That's sort of interesting in The Exorcist. We had casting crews all over this country. Everywhere where there was a theater, we had people shooting on videotape, young 12 and 11-year-old girls auditioning on tape. And it was all no good. There was nobody. And what I started to do, thank you, happens when you get old. Thank you. So then when I looked at these auditions and I thought, it's not going to be possible to make this picture. We started to look at 16 and 17-year-old girls, women, who looked younger. And that didn't work either. And one day, while I was in my office at Warner Brothers, which was then at 666 Fifth Avenue. You guys remember that? That address no longer exists for some obscure reason. Because I think the Antichrist is now dwelling there. That's where we were, that's where our cutting rooms were. And one day, my assistant rang me and said, there's a woman out here named Eleanor Blair, and she's brought her daughter with her. They don't have an appointment. Will you see her? And I thought, why not? The door opened, she walked in, and I knew immediately that this was the girl. She was 12 years old. She was a straight-A student in Westport, Connecticut. She had show horses that she used to work with at Madison Square Garden. She was extremely bright, and she had a great look. And I invited her and her mother to sit. And I said to her, so Linda, do you know what The Exorcist is about? And she says, oh yeah. She said, it's about a girl who's possessed by the devil, and she does a whole bunch of bad things. And I said, well, like what? Like what sort of bad things? And she said, well, she hits her mother across the face, and she pushes a man out of her bedroom window, and she masturbates with a crucifix. And her mother's smiling. Very sweet. And I said, do you know what that means? She said, what? I said, masturbate. She said, yes, it's like jerking off, isn't it? Her mother was still smiling. I said, have you ever done that? And she said, sure, haven't you? I think she had seen some of my previous films. But that's exactly what the meeting was. I never auditioned her, I just hired her. And because it was clear to me that this material was not going to disturb this young woman. That she was ready for it.
Before we bring you out, I would have a couple questions, maybe typical audience questions.
Sure.
Could you make that movie now in the studio with a 12-year-old girl?
You couldn't make that that picture now anywhere. I mean, there's a bunch of rip-offs still being made.
But they're not about children.
Not that way.
No, exactly.
There wouldn't be, no, first of all, there would not be enough NC-17s for that picture. And I'll tell you, when we showed that film to the ratings board then, it came back a half hour later with a call from the guy who invented the code. Why is that funny?
Go with me, go, okay?
There's a guy named Aaron Stern who was a psychiatrist in New York in private practice, and he came up with all these letters, you know. It was then X, R, M, I think it was an M then, and P, and then G for general audiences. And Aaron Stern called me. I had never met him. And he said, a half hour after he had seen the film with the ratings board, he said, I think this film is terrific. He said, we're going to give it an R. We're not asking for any cuts, not a frame. He said, we're going to take a lot of heat for that, and so will you. He said, but I think it should be seen. And that was it. The film got an R, although some theaters even played it as an X, in spite of the R from the ratings board. And I know now that it would get an NC-17 easily, and maybe not even released. There might be nothing you could do. You know, those of you who've seen it, you know that it's tough stuff. I don't deny that. But it was based on an actual case, and there were things that happened in the actual case that were every bit as disturbing as what's in the film.
Let's bring your editor now.
Oh, Darren Navarro.
Chair for you not sit in if you so choose. Exactly. Let's. We have time for literally 2 questions from the audience.
22 questions?
Yes. 2 questions. If anybody's got questions, you can come up now quickly. We'll do this. Let me ask you about your first day.
Well, I was an assistant on an assistant editor on a number of films that Billy did. So the truth is, I don't even really remember the first time we met, because I was in the room syncing dailies or doing something, and I did that for most of the 90s, starting basically all the films that you did at Paramount was part of it. And it was when you did Bug, and the editor who I had been working for all the time was not available to do Bug, and so he came to me and said, you know, are you ready? And I said, hell yeah.
What made you think he was the guy, though?
What made me think he was what?
The guy, the editor for you.
He's very smart. He's very knowledgeable about film. He knows a great deal more about world cinema than I do. And he's very talented and astute, you know, and he knows the equipment. You have to have the whole package, you know. He knows how to, you know, make it hum. So, and I knew that because Darren was an assistant and was a close collaborator, even at that time. The fellow who was editing some of my films is now directing.
Yeah.
Augie Hess. And so, no, I just was impressed by Darren, and he was ready. He did a great job.
Yes?
I was just curious, had you read or seen Killer Joe? I know you had a previous relationship with Mr. Letts because of Bug, but when he sent you the screenplay, was that your first exposure to it? And if you had seen it, did that influence your vision of the film at all?
I saw it in a little theater on Sunset Boulevard, way east, in a little hole in the wall, about 5 or so years ago. Because I was looking for the actress who played Charlotte in that little stage production. Because I was directing one of Tracy's plays in Orange County at the South Coast Rec. And I went to see the play really because of this actress who was in it, and I heard she was good. And so I saw the play, and I thought the play was sensational. Then a year or so later, Tracy said, "Hey, I got a script I'd like to send to you." And that was it.
Well, what I'm going to do at this point is give you guys, first of all, a chance to thank the LA Film Festival's guest director, Mr. William Friedkin.
Because I had heard he was coming, that the director... Is Caleb Deschanel here tonight?
Yeah.
Caleb?
Here.
Hey, Caleb, come on up. Yeah, come on up. Don't be shy. Mr. Deschanel has been nominated for 5 Academy Awards for his work. He's a really interesting guy, and I'd like you to hear, if you have a few minutes, because we used a new camera on this film that was, I think, one of the first times it's been used on a feature film. Can you talk about that a little?
Yeah, we used the Arri Alexa, which is now being used in a lot of movies, but it was the first time I shot digital, and I mean, shooting with Billy, because this film was shot in 26 days, and it was a big challenge for both of us, because I don't think we ever worked that fast before, but working with Billy is always fast because he does one take. And I'll tell you just a real quick story, and then we should probably see the movie, but probably see it. We had a car drive in this, and he was supposed to drive in at a certain angle, and he drove in at the wrong angle, so suddenly there in the window of the car was the camera. And the Steadicam, and reflection of it. And I said to Billy, Billy, we got to do it again. He goes, why? I said, well, because we saw the reflection of the camera in the car. And he goes, well, don't you think people come to the movies know that we use movie cameras?